And welcome everybody. I hope you can hear me. And if there is any problem or challenge, let us know. And I will start by briefly introduce myself as a member of faculty of the Graduate School of Education here at Nazarbayev University. And the purpose, the main aim of this webinar is to talk about what you could expect, the kind of experiences you can expect if ever you are to come at this university in our school. And in a way, I will be trying to paint a picture of what graduate studies are all about here. I will not be talking about a specific course, but I am looking at an accumulation of the experiences. When we look at all the different programs, whatever program you would have joined, we are saying as an international graduate school, these are some of the things you are going to expect. And like any other university, modern university, the idea of critical scholarship or critical thinking reigns supreme, and you will be expected to go through that and exhibit such kind of skills. Before I share my PowerPoint, which which will be guiding me, let me first introduce myself. I think that should be the first thing. Munya is my first name, which is, it makes it easier for people. In full, actually, it should be Munyaradzi, but Munya, I just go by Munya. It makes it easier for most people to say it. And my last name is Hwami. And in terms of my short bio, including even my background, I was born and raised in Southern Africa, in a very small country called Zimbabwe. That's where I grew up and did all of my education until at master's level. Then I left for graduate studies, and I went to a university in Canada called the University of Alberta. That's where I did my doctoral studies for about 5 years. And then started working there in Canada. I taught at the University of Alberta and McEwan University, and did a lot of research, a lot of teaching as well in the schools of education, mostly to do with teacher education and teacher development. And then in a year ago, in 2019, on the 13th of June, that's when I started at Nazarbayev University. So I am relatively new here, but I think it's all, I'm now entering into my second year. So that's no longer very new, in other words. So in brief, that's my my background. And I teach a number of courses here, things like research methods, courses to do with sociology of higher education, which is my passion. I'm also very much interested in globalization and higher education. So you find these as some of the main courses that attract me, the main courses that I teach here. Having said that, as we look, I'm going to try to share my my page, Idana.
Yeah, sure.
I hope it can be seen. Can they?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So slideshow.
I guess the first one, play from start.
Play from start, exactly. Thank you. Yes. So as you look at my my topic of presentation, I'm looking at Graduate School of Education, Critical Scholarship and Thinking, which is basically, I am saying, when you come to the Graduate School of Education at Nazarbayev University. Expect to grow, expect to develop critical scholarship, which in other words, we are talking about critical thinking. And it's a big issue in modern education. Any meaningful top university today, they try to ensure that they encourage students to think critically. So there is that development of critical scholarship. I will start with that general state. They say education is not neutral. This is clearly observed in modern times. We don't just do education for the sake of doing it. Everyone, but depending with where you are stationed, depending with where you are positioned, be it at individual level, at community level, or even national, education has a certain purpose. Education is designed to meet certain objectives. And I would say our curriculum here at Nazarbayev University in the Graduate School of Education is meant to achieve certain objectives, be they personal, be they societal, or at national level. This is common all over the world. Education is set up as a way to achieve development programs of a certain country, as well as personal problems, personal ambitions for us as individuals. So it's not just a neutral endeavor. It's something that that is done as a way to achieve certain objectives. And then the other general statement we hear of nowadays that education is about us. So that statement, you find it so common, being said in different schools. It is about us, depending with the way you define us. Yourself, education is supposed to be about you. But more importantly, education is supposed to solve problems. So if it is about you, what are your problems? What are your issues? What are your challenges? Probably at personal, family, community, going on at the different levels. We should be able to answer such a question. If education does not address the issues that are being problematic in your life, then there is something wrong with that kind of education. When you pick a certain course, when you pick a certain program, you should have something inside that is driving you, that you are saying, I am doing this because I want to solve, I want to find answers to A, B, C, D. It becomes meaningful. It becomes a relevant kind of education. Again, at the Graduate School of Education, looking at the different courses that we have, the different streams that we have, from school education, higher education, multilingual. When we look at all of them, I think they were clearly planned to ensure to tap the different problems that are out there, the different challenges that the people of Kazakhstan, the young people of Kazakhstan, who are eager to find solutions to national problems, they can be guided, of course, by principles, of course, by theories, in general, by knowledge. So that is scholarship develops that critical thinking, that critical scholarship that we say it is required. You just don't learn because others in the past did it. No. Why did they do such a thing? And why are you going to do it today? I think it is because of you look at your surroundings, you look at your environment, your peculiar personal challenges. Education should be there. Education should be assisting you to find solutions. If I can go to my next slide, again, as I said, I'm not talking specifically about courses at Nazarbayev University's Graduate School of Education, where we are saying, come and grow, come and we will help you be critical scholars. But it's the entire setup is meant to produce a candidate or a product who is like this. Critical thinking might be described as the ability to engage in reflective and independent thinking. I think in life, thinking is the most difficult thing. People end in problems, with the challenges, in situations where they suffer, sometimes just because not much thinking was put in the actions that they embarked on in the first place. But any education system that teaches you to think, I think that's the education system of modern times. So we are saying it requires your ability to reason. It is about being an active learner rather than a passive recipient of information. Again, throughout the curriculum that is offered at the Graduate School of Education, you will find this as a trait that the professors will try to develop within you continuously through different kinds of assignments. There could be activities, and finally people work on their research projects. The whole idea is you are an active learner, active thinker, express yourself, support your ideas, and like that we say we develop critical thinkers. There are always ideas, the arguments, and the findings represent the entire picture, and open to finding that they do not. You're open to that. The ideas that we learn, we should challenge them. Even if they're in text, it doesn't mean that which has already been published is the truth out there. No, that which is true is that which answers my problem. Maybe at my family level, maybe at my society, maybe at national level. If it does not, then it is not so. I can give you so many examples, especially for some of us who grew up in Africa. And most of the reading, most of the literature that we read, these were all books from the North, Western established scholars. Well read, popular, and everyone says they are respected. But when we look at some of the things that they say, against some of the problems, the challenges that we meet in our communities, in our poor communities, in rural Africa, you will say, no, this does not work. It does not work in my community, because that education system, because that line of thinking it was not about us. Some of it was not relevant to the situations that we made. But it's only you as a student, it's only you as a researcher who can put that together to realize that, yes, this is well-established knowledge, but when it comes to the ground where I am here, this does not work in rural Kazakhstan, for example. So that's critical thinking. That's critical scholarship, where you don't just take things as they are. Whatever is written, whatever is published and established out there, it must pass the practical test of our own problems on the ground. Maybe those are problems of poverty. Maybe those are problems of unemployment. Maybe they are problems of inequality. Those problems are created probably by situations that are different to some of the solutions that are postulated from out there. In this case, we will be saying probably it's a different culture, it's a different environment, there could be different situations. So I am again saying we try, that's the objective at the Graduate School of Education. When we say you are enrolled as a student here, you are introduced to critical scholarship. And one of the things you will realize is just diversity in terms of the population. We are people from all corners of the world. You have already seen me. I have already talked about my own background, where I am from. There are people from local around the region in Asia, people from North America, the US and Canada, people from Europe, England, other countries, Australia. It's international. In that international flavor, you learn different ideas from different corners of the world. And end of the day, that increases criticality. You know different things. You put them together and say, how do you weigh them? How do you judge and come out with the final outcome? That's one strength we have here at in the Graduate School of Education, the diversity. And that diversity will also be seen in pedagogical approaches. The difference is depending with where we are coming from. We're coming from different universities. We have different strengths, different approaches. And when you interact with all these different faculty members, that's enrichment of your own student experience. Something that, again, is expected in modern education when we look at international scholarship. There is technology here where it breaks the walls of access to evidence. There is so much you can learn by use of technology. And the technology in the school is first class. We tend to observe that. We all know that. And as I say, the issue of international scholarship. So all this, when we put together, it develops a critical scholar. It develops a scholar who is aware not only about himself or herself, but about their surroundings. And that is so important because it helps you understand how you can come up with solutions to issues. Education is about solving problems. Education is about improving our situation. If your situation is good as it is, I think one will be dead. We always want to improve ourselves. And when we use education, when we use the experiences, the viewpoints from all these different people, then we say, yes, we are getting there. We are benefiting from education. And the Graduate School of Education is really tailor-made to do that by the way it is structured and the different people that are in the school. And I think this one becomes just a general explanation of what critical thinking involves, linking ideas, determining importance and relevance of arguments. Some arguments, we throw them away. We say, no, this is not important. To recognize, build, and appraise arguments. Some arguments will say, oh, this one makes sense. This is relevant to what we experience in our own community. You should be able to identify inconsistencies and errors. So again, this is not done in one course. This is not done by one professor. It's a pattern of learning you realize is cutting across today's top universities, top schools. And the same is what you will see when you go through the different courses, the different programs and projects that you can take in the Graduate School of Education. You end up developed to that level of critical scholarship. And just as to conclude, before I give those who want, we have some questions or would like to make some comments, it's a simple exercise in terms of critical thinking. Think of something that someone has recently told you, then ask yourself the following questions. Who said it? I think that's so important nowadays. Sometimes depending with who they say something, you agree or you disagree. And then someone you know, someone in a position of authority or power, does it matter who told you that? So usually it does, but as from a critical scholarship, you should be able to ask that question. I think he told me that because he wanted to tell me something that makes me happy, depending with your own relationship. What did they say? Did they give facts or opinions? Did they provide all the facts? Did they leave anything out? So that again is so important. Whatever is said by somebody, say, oh, that's the way they think. But then the way they think might be different to the way I think. It's an opinion, it's not a fact. These are some of the things we should be able to deduce when we listen or we read statements. Where did they say it? When did they say it? Why did they say it? And how did they? All these are very important questions when we look at ideas, principles, or points, or just listening to someone talking. We should be able to ask those questions. And in that process, we analyze them critically. So in brief, that's what I want to say. This is what you will expect in the Graduate School of Education. Expect practice in critical thinking, and you'll be encouraged. And your work, when you present it, we expect to see levels of critical thinking that shows that you are not just taking other people's work. You understand it, you judge it, sometimes you agree with certain views, you disagree, you can even expand on others. So in brief, that's what I wanted to share as a way of saying, this is what we are doing at the NU's Graduate School of Education, and this is done across the school. If there are any questions or any comments, I'm ready for us to have the discussion.
Thank you, Munya, for this webinar and presentation. Very interesting. So we are open for any questions from the audience. Please feel free to ask it. Switch on your video or just audio.
And I think
Doc,
okay.
Sawubona.
Hi.
This is Bernard from Johannesburg.
Oh, hi, Bernard in Johannesburg.
Yes, Doc.
Okay, nice to have you here. You can shoot your question or your comment if you have any.
Yeah, it looks like UN community is spreading across the world now because we have you guys as our representatives, and now I'm one of the students in the GSE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is my first year. I'm doing inclusive education.
Okay.
And I would like to say thank you for this engaging presentation. It somehow resonates with one of my professors, Somalton, Michelle. She always coaches students or us that in our writing, we need to reflect more on our beliefs and values, what we value most. Because it is only through that we can reflect critically than merely doing copy and paste of someone's work. So coming to my question, Prof, which is more general, yes. It has to do with this COVID-19 pandemic, which has paralyzed the world. And you would believe, or you would agree with me that the COVID-19 surgeons or the pandemic has been interpreted and misinterpreted by different people across the world. But what I find strange for me as a student who have to now always analyze things or think critically is the control over the COVID pandemic, where if we challenge the protocol of COVID-19, we are told to be hooligans. We are not supposed to reason what has caused this pandemic and why is it only spreading at certain areas, not going to other areas. So your beliefs and value system automatically are being rejected. So I find it as a challenge in this regard. Or perhaps we are analyzing things that don't necessarily need to be analyzed critically. So at what point do I know, because I'm still a novice researcher, I wouldn't know if at this point I need to critically analyze whatever comes my way? Or do I just agree with the facts put before me because that's what the world is saying?
Oh, then quite interesting. But I think, yes, we are allowed to be critical, to analyze and look at alternatives. But there are also certain things that are quite scientific, like the example you are giving of the challenges we have brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. I think for the sake of progress, this the basic thing to say, do you believe in wearing a mask or not? But I think for you to say, I think I shouldn't be wearing a mask, that becomes so problematic. And I don't think that would be part of being critical. I think it becomes negating knowledge, that is evidence that has gone through other people's work. In this case, it's scientific. So there is always a limit, a reasonable limit, where for those who have carried out their researches, for those who have spent a lot of time to come up with certain conclusions, I think we should respect their findings and then say, I think this has to be followed to help save life. It's a bit difficult kind of a scenario, kind of an example you have highlighted, but I think most of the controversies that have arisen in terms of how do we respond to COVID, there's been some people just going against science, which is established evidence. Some people have gone through, they found out of research. So I would think like, I would say, yes, there are such kind of issues we have to admit, but there are also certain arguments that I don't think it's even cultural. I don't think it's even out of one's experience. It's just hard evidence out there that for the sake of survival, I think as people, it will be ideal just to go on board and follow such kind of ideas. That would be my response. But thank you very much. Heard your voice all the way from Johannesburg. I passed through Johannesburg about a week ago. I don't know if there is another question or comment.
Yes, thanks, Prof. I don't want this to be a one-to-one discussion between ourselves. It's also open. It's an open discussion, I believe. The reason I was asking you this deliberately is because when the lockdown started, I was actually in Saudi Arabia. So I experienced the first lockdown in the Middle East. And we got evidence from the scientists that COVID-19 does not actually survive in high or hot temperatures. And at the time, Saudi Arabia was experiencing almost 50 degrees. And they had the numbers. 3 months later, I was repatriated to South Africa by our government. And the discussion continued. And we were told by the scientists at the time that Africa was not seeing any surgeons because it was not cold. COVID only thrives in cold weathers. And these are scientifically proven evidence. But now, having traveled between different continents and experiencing different climates, I stand to argue, but my argument wouldn't last critically because you need to now believe in everything that the world scientists are telling us, even though the environment, the context is totally different. I mean, it's similar to the vaccine that we now have to be subjected to.
Yes, Bernard, as you said, this can be just about you and me, and we can't bog it down to COVID-19, to the vaccine or things like that. The whole idea was for us to talk about abilities, that we have to think about things critically. Those are probably scientific discussions that I think will be taking astray the purpose of this webinar. Maybe we can find time in other presentations to discuss some of those issues, definitely. It's mainly for our prospective students, not necessarily to ask questions about the webinar, but even other questions if they want to know. Idana is here to answer other questions that have virtually nothing to do with what I presented on, but those who want to know how to go about it in terms of applying to the Graduate School of Education.
Thank you, Munya. Thank you, Bernard. If there are any questions, we can take now. If not, then this is the end of this presentation, right, Munya?
Sure, if there are no comments or questions. Yes. Hey.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, it's okay. Oh, well, looks like we don't have any more questions or comments, and then maybe you can.
I have a question.
Okay.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah, it is afternoon here, maybe. So
Yeah.
I have a question about the inclusive education.
Yes.
So in Nazarbayev University, your staff is training teachers and specialists for inclusive education. So how is it effective to use the strategy in the local schools with the inclusive classes?
You mean which strategy are you referring to?
Oh, I mean, maybe strategies, maybe methods, maybe how do you train the future teachers for inclusive? Because my future major is inclusive.